All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on back to the Cinema Lords podcast. This is going to be our Bear Season 3 review. Came out right around a month ago, so we gave everybody ample time to watch it, and now we're gonna, have a nice little conversation about it. Joined again by today by my man Fax, who was nice enough to do the preview for the season. Fax, what's going on, my man?
What is up? Yes, I'm very excited, or I guess more anxious to get into it because I'm sure that I might share some opinions with others, but I'm also just kind of curious to see what you thought of it and kind of how it's taken by everyone else who watches along. So this is going to be good.
Yeah, I definitely now that you say that, I think we maybe are going to be more on the same page because I have some flaws with this season. I'm not a totally in love with it. So,
Oh yeah, no, that's I got a list too.
all right. So we're gonna basically just kind of go like episode by episode. We're gonna go quick though. Kind of just touch on the ones that we like more so than the ones that we didn't like. But I do feel like that very strongly with this season. Almost with every episode, like I either like I really enjoyed it or I kind of could have just done without it completely. Could have just like thrown it in the trash. Didn't need it.
Oh yeah,
So first one was an episode that I actually liked a lot. Perfect. Episode one was Tomorrow, which was basically kind of like an artsy episode. There wasn't a ton of dialogue or conversation, but it basically just played like a Sports Center highlight reel of all of Carmi's like training, how he got to where he is from New York to Amsterdam, not Amsterdam. Where is it in Europe that they go and do the fucking
I think
dessert
it was
training?
Sweden, was it?
Yeah, Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, Switzerland. That's what
Copenhagen.
it
There you
is.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to New York, then to Chicago. So we see like his entire career, basically, like I said, in like a nice little highlight package. I liked this episode a lot.
Yeah, I did too. It was like you said, that little highlight clip of just getting to see. It's kind of what I had wanted from the previous two seasons. I always wanted to see Carmi actually go through the process of training and getting better, and you kind of get to see his obsession and
Yep.
how seriously he takes it, like to another level that I feel like most of us don't even take with our own jobs.
Yeah.
Like he was very deep in the mix, and you kind of see why it's so clear that he was above and beyond so many of his peers
Yep.
because yeah, he was a psycho about it.
The one part that like I think really jumps out as far as like what you just said was when they show him like on the farms talking like the actual farmers that are, growing the vegetables that they're using in the restaurant. He wanted to see like where everything came from, like right from the source, from like the second that it's planted through it's growing to it's picked, how to tend to it, the whole nine. I thought that was like obsessive, wanting to know every intricate detail of what you're working with.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet to see that because you always want to have somebody, or like if you're going into a restaurant yourself and you know that that's your chef, somebody with that attention to detail, it's like, holy shit, all right, this is probably going to be the best meal of my life. Some dude who wants to go and see, yeah, from the soil to the kitchen counter, like he wants to see the entire process. I really enjoyed that too. That's what I just enjoyed about the entire vibe of the episode was just details, details, details.
Yeah.
From the silly story from that one chef talking about the chicken and then all the way to that farm scene that you were talking about. There is always just these little side details that you get to learn a lot more about Carmi's process. And also, I feel like it helps you understand what's going on in his brain, both as the previous two seasons and as this season like progressives.
Yeah.
You get to see his thought process and why sometimes he can be so revved up.
Yeah. We definitely get a lot of view on how that old boss of his like really fucking just drove him basically insane.
Yeah. I
Just
mean,
constant belittling and fucking being told you're not good enough just endlessly.
yeah, and shout out to Joel McHale because he really kills that character.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
on him like
Uh,
crazy.
I think the only other quick two things is that we see Will Poulter's going to be back right away. We got a quick view of him in this episode. So that was one of my questions was if he'd be back. So I was happy to see that. And then the other thing that I did enjoy too was that right away, a lot of food in episode one, which was one of my flaws with season two is
Yes.
that there wasn't enough food. This episode was loaded with food right out of the gate. I was like, okay, I like this. This is good.
Oh yeah. I was happy to see that too because season two it was just all getting everything ready and you're waiting. You feel like other than that dessert episode really and forks. you didn't really get to see a ton. And
No.
so right away off the bat, just back to back to back, just food, 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 cooking, cooking, cooking. I love that because it's almost like I don't know, it's almost like one of those ASMR videos or like one of those relaxing videos where you're just watching somebody
Yeah,
cook and shit and you're just like,
absolutely.
this is almost relaxing in a way.
Definitely.
So I loved that.
That's definitely even not just for this episode, but for the entire season. That's I would say like one of my biggest pros with this season was that so much food, which I feel like is a large part of why a lot of people are watching the show to begin with. And like we said, kind of got away from that a little bit in season 2, but nonstop food this season. I loved that.
Yeah.
Episode 2 was a pretty like just loud, combative, and intense one. Like we still see that Carmi and Richie are like absolutely at one another's throats. We can tell that the kitchen's going to be a nightmare, at least for the time being right now. Between the floor and the kitchen, there's absolutely no communication, basically. But this episode, even this one, I enjoyed this. I always love like the chaos and the combativeness too, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's what made me start to get really excited for the season. So as we like get into more episodes, you're gonna see where like my disappointment might start because with this second episode, first we got just a ease into season 3. Let's learn a bit more about Carmi, and then episode 2, boom, right back into the battlefield.
Yeah.
I was excited because yeah, I like it in the way that it's just entertaining to see Richie and Carm, especially now that Richie has more ground to stand on. Like
Yep.
the arguments that he's making are actually valid this time. It's not just his pure emotion. It's more so of like he has an actual opinion about how this restaurant is supposed to be run in order for him to do the job to the best of his ability. So when
Yeah.
you see that more valid claim and it becomes this not just these cousins yelling at each other, it's actually the head chef and the head waiter yelling at each other.
Right.
So it's more organized and structured chaos, but nonetheless, it was really good. I did enjoy that, and I had that little bit of fear of like, oh shit, like if we're starting off like this, like
Yeah.
how's it gonna go? Is it gonna fall all the way apart? Is it gonna improve at any point? Like what's happening?
I like how you say he has more ground to stand on because we saw like I think more so season 1 than season 2, but we see
Yeah,
him push back against Carm a lot. And these new people see Carm and that he's actually improving things and making things better. And Richie's kind of the old regime, not really paying, like not giving a like as big a fuck as he should, kind of
yeah,
like screwing off. And they kind of take Carm's side, obviously. But now that, like you said, now that he's got this experience and this whole new mentality and this new work ethic and all of that, it's now he's got, like you said, more ground to stand on. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I like seeing that from Richie, like because he's my favorite character in the show, just because I feel like he has a lot of layers to him, and then his intentions are always just pure and good. Like he wants what he wants out of either the restaurant or his life are always tend to be pretty good things. So I usually have his back in most of the time, and in this scenario, like you could totally see his side versus before, like you were just kind
Definitely.
of like, oh, he's not buying in. But now you were like, all right, yeah, he wants the seating room and everything, like the actual dining room, to be the best it can be, and he feels like Karma's getting in the way of that.
Yeah. Which I mean, I don't know how much experience Carm has on being on the floor. Obviously, he's been working in really good restaurants, but I don't know how much he's seeing like on the floor as far as organization goes on a day-to-day basis.
Or
I would
his
imagine he's
experience, yeah, his experience in the communication with the waiting staff as well is
true. Yeah.
probably very limited because before he was just the psycho chef that, just stand over there and make the food really well and send it out. You
Right.
never really know, or at least we don't know to our knowledge how much that he's interacted with wait staff and how his relationship with wait staff was or
Yeah.
is.
We saw a couple of other things that I liked from this episode. We saw it seemed like the facts are definitely going to be a bigger part of the season, which they were. We got not introduced, but what is it? Ted Fack, who we saw in the Christmas episode in season 2.
Yep.
He became like a full part of the restaurant, basically. He kind of took over for Neil's job, kind of the mechanic, janitor, whatever the hell, the handyman around the restaurant, which I liked that. I thought they were wicked funny together. So I loved that
Yeah.
expansion for him.
Yeah, yeah, me too. He was a good replacement to come back in, and he's just like the slightly more neurotic brother, and you
Yeah.
kind of see all of a sudden, Neil is the one who has to control him, which you're not used to seeing because it's always Neil who had to be controlled. So it was funny that you got to see there's like, oh shit, it gets worse. Like within this family, there's more
Right,
crazy.
right, right,
So
right.
it was
The
good.
back and forth between them, the banter is just it's so funny, man. Has me crack every episode pretty much. I think they had me cracking up at some point. Carmi quit cigarettes, which that's kind of like an ongoing thing in this season. I feel like 1,000 people call him on it throughout the season. Like, oh,
Yeah,
you quit, you quit, you quit. So that was something I just noted. Then the last thing is that was another big part of the season is the non-negotiables that he put together, which basically everybody had a problem with, except for Marcus, who's obviously grieving and shit. So he, I think, wants something to put all of his attention on. And here's this list of crazy things that are going to need full attention, and he's in. Everybody else is like, this is crazy.
yeah. Generally, like anything that just gives him some sort of outline where he just is like, all right, this is my structure. This is what I do. That's what he needed, and he made it pretty clear when he came in the restaurant too. He's just like, I'm just here to work. I just want to do this. Blah blah blah.
Yes, that's
And
actually
yeah,
yes, that's what ends like the all the chaos and the
hmm
arguing is when he walks in. Yeah, good call.
yeah. And the non-negotiables, like that's where it got. I mean, the most heated, just because I think it was because how Richie saw it and it was like, all right, this kind of fucks the wait staff a little bit. Like, and he makes the point, which I think people neglect, that, the wait staff are not just like lesser than or equal to, like, they're just as involved as the customer's experience as the chefs can be. So I think Richie, that was the point he was really trying to make, that like, you are not better than us, you're not above us just because you cook the food. Like, we all, they don't even see you, they just eat your food, and it depends
That's
how
true.
we present it and how we take it out, how we treat the people that are here, because we're the ones who are interacting with the customers. So
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's a good call. Um, it also it probably be like pissed off too, just in the sense that there's no communication with him about these. Like he just shows up to work one day and
yeah,
he's just like, all right, this is a new list. Like I kind of at that point I'm sure kind of seeing himself as like the floor manager or however you want to look at it. So you would think he would have some kind of involvement in doing something this drastic that's going to be the entire restaurant, not just the kitchen.
yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, to that point, that kind of brings up the whole thing of, there's this going to be this theme throughout this season about Sid and signing the paperwork and whatnot.
Yes.
But this was a perfect example of what signing that paperwork would mean. I feel like Sid would have had a lot more pull in that situation, because she would be basically saying, "Hey, we are in this like together. It is you and me. It is on paper. You cannot just make all the rules, build your own structure, and then expect me to follow it without having questions or disagreements, because
Yep.
it's a partnership." But since that partnership wasn't technically established, it may have not gone the way that she had wanted to. So it's
Yep.
interesting to see how that dynamic would go or not go, or however it would have been if she would have just straight up clicked yes, click sign right away.
She'd also kind of have more of an ability to say like, yo, because she keeps getting bulldozed on basically on
Yeah.
every suggestion she has for the menu. Carmi kind of just runs her right over. Again, partnership kind of thing. Like, hey, like this is both of ours. Like, there's got to be some kind of cooperation here as far as how this menu's going to go.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I think that's all I have for 2. 3, we open up with Marcus giving the eulogy for his grandmother, which I actually thought was pretty I thought it was a good scene. I like the Marcus character. He just seems like the definition of like the gentle teddy bear or whatever it is, the gentle giant. He's just like so soft spoken and just like sweet. I like Marcus a lot. Um Uncle Jimmy, very concerned about finances, which is going to be another thing that's going to be ongoing throughout this season. Going to be trying to cut
Mhm.
costs any way we can, because this new menu, that's one of the non-negotiables, is they're doing the new menu every single day. That's just costing so much money, you'd have to imagine, on daily food.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially, yeah, you can't buy things in bulk. You can't prep things as much as you want, because all of a sudden Carm could have an entire new dish that has all ingredients that you don't currently have in the kitchen. You have to go get that day. So that's gonna run up the bill
Yeah.
super fast.
And he spends so much of the season trying to prepare these new dishes and put them together in this perfect way. That's what he wants from his mind. And every time, like, there's countless scenes of him just throwing away like what looks like amazing plates of food, just
Yeah.
all of that going away. So that's got to be fucking hitting the budget big time too.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
We kind of just see a lot of the issues from these non-negotiables, like we kind of mentioned during episode 2. Like Richie struggles to remember the menu every day. There's one scene that's very funny, where Carmi's calling for hands, and Fact goes like, "Can I bring it?" And he's like, "Do you know, like, can you do that?" And Fact's like, "Yeah." And he brings like the thing over, and he's like, "This is some kind of thing that he pours into a bowl, and
Yeah.
like the smoke comes out." And he never even puts it on the table. He just pours it and then turns around and walks it back to the kitchen. I was dying.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite scenes. Just
So good.
complete blissful ignorance of just like, bro, how do you, like it just speaks to the character so much right in that moment. It's insane. I love that. I love that scene. That was perfect.
I think that's the only scene in this show so far where anybody shows even a little bit of aggravation with Thack. Even like Carmi in that one moment broke. He was like, "You can't fuck up this bad." But every other time, like everyone just cuddles him and coddles to him all the time. It makes me that makes me laugh. Like
Yeah.
the way Sugar talks to him, it's always like, "Hi, love," like, "Yes, sweetie." It's
Yeah. Sweetie, you need to get the fuck out. And just mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um a couple of things that are ongoing problems that we see this season. This is another one that was interesting. Ibram's really struggling with the beef window, which isn't surprising. One guy running that window by himself seems like chaos.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, my wife and I, we were like confused, and we're like, "What is like the whole structure of this? What is going on? Like, how is this supposed to operate?" Like, we were really kind of confused by that angle because we were trying to figure it out the whole time of just like who made this decision, and then also at the same time, like, is anyone checking in on him? Is anyone
True.
like looking to see how it's going? What kind of profit is this generating? Like, it was
I
it was
think
a
I think maybe Sugar mentioned something about like the beef is the only thing that's like making them money right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
even with it being a mess, obviously the want for it is just so high.
Mhm, mhm. It was people they still had, like, consistent sandwiches all day, and, like, obviously, because you could see him getting overwhelmed almost every single day because he was sitting there and rushing everything.
Yeah. There was a lot of problems in this episode. I think that was kind of the general concept of this episode was that there's just all every character basically in this restaurant, regardless of their role, is facing like issues on every front.
Yeah, yeah. You could it's like you almost see, like, what you think or what you assume is supposed to be, like, the growing pains episode of, like, "Okay, now that we're
That's a
in
good way
this
to put it.
shit, here's what's going on, and here's what you're gonna have to deal with. Here's what everyone has to improve on. Here's what everyone has to perfect. Here's who's falling behind. Here who's is, like, staying afloat," it's there was a lot of aspects on, like, "All right, this is our first look about how the day-to-day is going to purely go," We're not talking about dishes as much, we're just seeing the integration.
Speaking of dishes, we even see the dishwashers. They cut themselves like 3 or 4 times on broke. Like they were hitting every corner on this. They're like, no, everybody's suffering right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Which being a dishwasher at a restaurant, like especially like that one where there's like 12 courses, like and you have just
Oh
an
my god.
abundance of plates, and there's only like 2 dishwashers, it looks like. So that must be a
Yeah.
fucking awful job.
Yeah, they're just over there in the back corner just suffering in silence while everyone else is actually seemingly going through the same thing. So you don't even really feel like, "Oh, damn, sucks to be them," because 'cause you're just like overall, you're just like, "Damn, sucks to be everybody in there. They're all
Yep.
just going through a fucking war."
Every single
So,
person.
yeah.
The other big thing from this episode was how it ends, which I don't think it's in this show. I think I've seen it in another cooking movie or cooking show that I've heard this before. But Richie notices that there's like a fork, a piece of silverware on the ground, and then he also notices that there's a pocketbook that has fallen onto the ground. And I can't remember. I think it had to have been a movie. Maybe it was like the one with Bradley Cooper there, Chef,
Oh,
or
Burnt?
Burnt. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chef is that's the
John
one with
Favreau, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. It might have been one of those movies. They say like when a reviewer comes in, like these are signs to look for, and both of those things are things that they say. Like look for drops, like whether it's a pocketbook or dropped napkin, something like that. Pieces of silver on the ground. They're doing it intentionally to like test the servers, basically.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw that, I was like, again, I don't remember what it was from exactly, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I remember hearing that somewhere, and I was like, that's a bad sign. They got to be getting reviewed right now.
Oh yeah, and then like right away, it almost feels like you have no time to get your footing, but that's really the whole deal with the business is like you got to be ready from the start
Yeah.
because the second that reviewer or critics are going to hear that your restaurant is opening, they're gonna and it's has like the prerequisites that it has with Carm being in charge and all of that jazz. Like it's supposed to be this fancy restaurant, so you should expect some fire and some pressure almost right away.
Yeah. And they clearly weren't because, especially with this everyday menu thing again, which is going to come up. I think it's in the next episode, I want to say, but they ask for it's actually episode 5. It's the one I love. The photographer asked for the plate, and they can't even recall what fucking plate it is because they've been doing turnover on the menu every single day. They're doing different variations of every dish. So it's an impossible thing to like, unless you're saving all of the menus, which actually would probably be a good idea if you're going to be changing them all the time.
Yeah. It's like
Probably like
saving
make a
your
copy every day.
yeah, it's like saving your HelloFresh plates or sheets whenever you get them. That's what I
Yeah,
used to do. I got a whole
there you
stack of
go.
them on top of my fridge.
There you go.
Mhm.
So that episode again, I liked that one. I liked 3. 4 is the first one that I
Yep.
really feel like I didn't care for much at
Yep.
all. I felt like it was a pretty useless episode. It was like kind of still following characters and their problems, but a lot of them were like not directly in the restaurant. Like Sydney's trying to get a new place. She seems upset like she's leaving her dad and shit like that. Marcus is still sad from his grandmother. We do get some Richie stuff this episode, which I know you were saying Richie's your favorite character.
Yeah.
We see kind of how he's dealing with his ex-wife having a new fiance. We get a cameo from Josh Hartnett too.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it was I felt the same way about this episode like as far as necessity it really wasn't that intense because it was just I get it. You need to try to build some sort of B storylines with each character when you're trying to jump into depth, but this felt like one of those where they were trying a little too hard
I
and
agree.
they almost had no like personality material. Like, but even for me, like the stuff with Reggie was somewhat interesting because that is something you're already tied to. But
Right.
we don't really have the I don't know, I guess episodes or time to get attached to the other aspects with the characters. Like with Sid and her dad, we knew that there was a relationship there and it existed. You know, you knew that she doesn't have a mom, but then all of a sudden she's moving on. She's just trying to move an apartment. Everyone's thinking, okay, yeah, that's what 20-year-olds do. Yeah, like it has to happen
It's yeah,
eventually.
it's just not that intriguing, basically.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of like, okay, like we get it. You know,
Yeah.
it does suck. And then with Marcus, like you didn't get as much of his grandma, like, you knew that he was going to be dealing with this, but to sit there and shift that amount of focus onto it, like, you could have made it infinitely more subtle, and it still would have had the same amount of, if not even more impact.
Yep. I totally agree. I think you nailed it. The only like out of all of these ones for this episode, Richie's the only one that I kind of find appealing, and I think it's because it's a unique relationship too. I don't think a lot of times you
Yeah.
see divorce. They'll be like not overly friendly, but they'll get along for the sake of the kid. They don't want to be
Yep.
fighting and making the kid's life crazy. So they're able to get along even if they don't have, great feelings towards one another. These two seem like they're I don't even know, best friends almost. They seem like they're very, very, very close, even though they're obviously separated.
Yeah, yeah. That was that was interesting to watch because that
Definitely.
co-parenting, but it's clear that they still have love for each other. And
Big
Richie
time.
tries his best to keep the peace as much as he can. So it makes you wonder like what aspects of the relationship just weren't clicking so much to the point where they felt the need to split apart. That it leaves some questions. It's like, okay, if they
Yep.
still have this relationship, like who was it that couldn't keep up in one aspect, or who was it that couldn't like deal with whatever was going on or whatever conflict was going on anymore? Because as of right now, yeah, they seem to be pretty friendly and still have some sort of love for each other.
Yep. That's one of my biggest questions. I think right now that's one of my biggest questions is what happened that led to, the separation basically. I'm very curious.
Yeah, most definitely.
The only other big thing was that they did realize, like they found out for sure that they were reviewed at the end of episode 3. So that's obviously going to be something that they have to tackle coming up.
Yep. Yep.
Which brings us to episode 5, which is not just my favorite episode of the season. It's one of my favorite episodes in this entire show so far. I loved episode 5. I thought it was great. We open up, we see that Ever's closing down, which kind of makes everybody feel uneasy because we just opened up a fine dining restaurant. It's like, is this the death of fine dining? Like, this is the pinnacle of fine dining and it's closing down. Like, should we be worried, kind of thing? Which right away I thought kind of set the plate good, made everything feel uneasy.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely did set a different type of tone, especially when you don't know the why or really the logistics of everything. All they knew is they looked at the news and the restaurant in which Carm had ties to and even Richie had tons of ties to, all of a sudden is just leaving. And there wasn't answers yet. So all of a sudden you're gonna be in that immediate panic mode of like, oh shit, what have we done? What did we just do opening this restaurant? If a restaurant which I mean, objectively is much better at the time because it's more established,
Yeah.
all of a sudden is just out the door.
Right.
So mm,
It's a tough situation, especially with the fact that we know we just got reviewed, and now this like it's just added.
yeah.
It's just more and more and more. It just keeps adding the tension. So we know the photographer. That's kind of the whole plot of this episode. Is the photographer from the review is coming into the store, and they want to make everything as good as possible. So the fax is supposed to be buffing the floor and getting the inside ready. And they're like, all right, we gotta call in another fax. And it's
Mhm.
fucking John Cena. As soon as I saw him, I think I even like put my hands up. I was like, yeah, like let's go.
I know that was
He
a
was
crazy
great.
cameo. Yeah,
It was.
he's awesome in a lot of the shows that he's in. He's always been very funny, very humorous. So it's like seeing him just pop in like that and just like the absolute opposite of the other Fact brothers was just so funny because all of a sudden you're like, all right, we're getting introduced to another fact, but how is this one going to be? And then fucking John Cena, 16-time WWE champion, comes in. You're all
Hell
just
yeah.
like, is that the guy who won 2 Royal Rumbles? Like, are you like, it's crazy. And I loved
I've
it.
I've talked about it on my like doing like regular episodes of my podcast before, but I said like right now, I think John Cena, as far as like his actual comedic timing, is arguably like the best in all of Hollywood right now.
Oh
It's
yeah, he's one of the definitely he is up there at the top. Like I
Yeah,
would
like
agree
it's
with
not
you.
even what he's doing necessarily, like, is that funny, but the way he delivers his lines, the looks on like the way he does it is just perfect. He's so funny to me. He cracks me up in everything. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he
Did you see Vacation Friends on Hulu?
I I've seen parts of it. I never watched the full movie, but I had mostly known him. I mean, well, known him obviously through WWE, but like
Yeah.
I'd mostly seen his acting chops in Peacemaker.
Love
So
Pete. He's great as
yeah,
Peacemaker. Perfect
amazing.
fit. Yeah.
Hmm.
I was gonna say, Vacation Friends, if you're into like just like really dumb comedies, check that one out on Hulu. I fucking loved that movie. I was cracking up.
Oh yeah,
It was
Tom
something we
Hardy's
needed.
great.
It was just like wicked, wicked raunchy. It's over the top, like dirty comedy. It's just things we don't get anymore, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone wants to be deep in Oscar winners these days, so it's just
Yeah.
like it's nice to kick back and watch something like that.
But obviously we see him and the other two facts, just how they, like I said, kind of the same thing, the way they go back and forth. They get into the hauntings, which was hysterical. John Cena haunting Ted. It was great. And then they mentioned that their dad haunted one of their uncles for like 16 years or something like
Yeah.
that. I think they said he like did paperwork and like had him convinced that he wasn't actually a fact, like he was like adopted or something like that.
And the
I
fact that
was dying.
they buy into it so much too, almost to where like you as the viewer feels like it's like this legitimate thing because they're so terrified of it.
Yeah.
Something where the rest of us in the regular world would just see that as like oh yeah, they're just being petty or they're being psychotic, but for them it's like there's a whole name for it, there's a whole
Yep.
vibe to it, and there's a true fear of it as well.
Yeah. Even like the
Yeah, that's
outside
hilarious.
characters know of it. So it's not like it's
Yeah.
just specifically a fact thing. Like Carmi knows about it, Richie knows about it. So it's obviously been like a big topic of conversation for however many years now.
Oh yeah.
The other funny thing that happened with the facts that I marked down that I loved was the photographer just goes and he goes, "Do you guys smell cigarettes in here?" And Ted just goes, "Yeah, we were huffing darts." I was fucking
So
dying. This episode was
proudly
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
We were fucking
Um,
darts.
the last thing I had was we get the introduction of the computer character, who was in a way kind of like dry funny. He was just kind of a no bullshit kind of guy. But the big part for me was a huge bump for Sugar. The computer basically questions if the restaurant needs Marcus because he's expensive and he only does desserts.
Yep.
And she kind of goes like a little soliloquy, like how I've known you, you coach this, that, and the other thing. And she's like, if you fuck with Marcus, I will murder you.
Yep.
I was like, all right, Sugar, there we go. That's some
Yeah.
points right there. Not that I disliked her or anything, but she's just kind of like a neutral character for me.
Yeah, yeah, she didn't really add anything, she didn't really take anything away, but yeah,
Yeah.
having something like that where you see her finally just stand on something and it's a good and it's about, like, a character that you also enjoy a lot, it was definitely good points for her. I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly. I don't want anyone to be even remotely mean to Marcus. Like I said,
No.
gentle giant. Like he should be treated like a goddamn angel.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw that in, season 1 where Carm was like, "Why are you fucking me?" When
Yeah,
he, dropped
yeah.
the dessert, so you were like, "Damn, don't fucking come at Marcus like that,
Yeah,
dog."
for real. I even felt like that with the bull thing with Thack. I was like, I know he fucked up, but don't yell at Thack. Don't be mean to him.
Yeah, no.
But like I said, that was easily one of my favorite episodes of this entire series so far. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was great. The next one's another one that I didn't much care for at all. Napkins. This is the Tina episode. We basically get her entire backstory and how she came to work at the Beef. To me, again, was kind of, and I like Tina's character. I just didn't need this episode. Like, I didn't need to know that she was fired and looking for a job for weeks. I don't know, didn't do anything for me.
No, I mean, well, damn, yeah, this is our first point of contention because this one was
Okay,
one of my favorites, probably my
okay.
favorite of the season.
I
I
think people agree with you because I think this one was nominated for one of the Emmys. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, because this one for me, what I liked about this one, because one, seeing the growth of Tina over the first 2 seasons, and then that is a character who you've seen, a lot of growth from, and then all of a sudden you get to see where she started and how she got there because you knew there was something about her that had, like, a hustler mentality or like a,
Definitely.
don't fuck with me mentality. So you're like, all right, why was that type of mentality created? Like, what did she go through to just not want to be dealing with too much bullshit? And then you got to see it. And for her, it was really nice to see, her relationship at home and you see how hard she works and how hard her and her family's had to work. And on top of that, um, you got to see the relationship or really more of like what the beef was
Yeah.
before Carmine got there. You saw how it went and how it operated, and with Michael and with Richie and their back and forth.
I will
So
say, actually, that's a good point. Like you mentioned that Richie actually seemed like he was actually contributing pretty well and kind of
yeah.
handling shit pretty like better than I would have expected just based off of where his character started in season one, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you definitely thought he was just purely fucking around the entire time, but then you
Right.
saw, yeah, oh shit, he's just trying to help his boy out and he's running things as quick as he can. Like it was obviously 10 times more chaotic in the front end with the way that they did things, but and it felt a little more like New York than it did Chicago,
Yeah.
but it was entertaining at least. I liked that part and Michael's really cool. John Barenthal is great.
I love John Barrett. He's one of my favorites. He's awesome.
Yep. Yep. He did an amazing job.
This might have been the most well, either this or Fishes. He was on the screen a lot in Fishes too. So one of the others. So this is either his most screen time or his second most screen time.
Yeah, I think probably
Oops, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
Fish is a little bit more.
Yeah. Great
Just
episode.
yeah.
So the only other thing I don't even know, like I could be like wrong. It could have just been the way I interpreted it, but in season one, I got the impression that like Tina had been there for a long time because it didn't seem like her and Carmi were just like meeting for the first time. It seemed like they already had like a relationship, like they had already known each other. Again, maybe I'm just wrong and like I again interpreted that kind of the wrong way, and they just didn't really flush that out and show it. But that's the way I felt, at least in my brain. And obviously, this completely goes against that because she basically got hired virtually kind of right before everything went to shit, like before Michael kills himself, and then Carmi comes and takes it over.
Yeah, and I think because you have to assume that she had probably worked there for, I don't know, a few months, if not more, because she grew a relationship with Michael that's clearly really important. And I
Right.
think because of that, that's how she knew Carmi, because he loved talking about Carmi. He would always say, "Oh
Sure.
yeah, my brother's doing this and that." He even said in the episode. So
Yeah,
I
it
think
shows her the
maybe that's
picture of
why
the
she was,
police.
slightly more comfortable,
Okay.
was because of that. Like, she had heard so much about him. So all of a sudden, when he came in, she had probably heard a million stories about him, and she's like, "Oh
Felt like she already kinda knew him a little bit.
yeah, yeah."
I
So
gotcha. That's no, that's a
comfortable.
sound defense. I like that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I am in the minority because I did see that this thing got nominated, and I think for an Emmy, like, best episode or best comedy episode or whatever. Because the Bears in the comedy section at the Emmys, which I find a little strange.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just like strategic as
I
far
think
as
this,
competing
yeah,
with other dramas.
yeah, less comedies to compete with by far nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, let's see, episode 7, Legacy. This was another one that I thought was kind of I don't know. It was okay, but it didn't really do too much for me either. This second half of the season kind of
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Sydney gets offered to run a new restaurant. I don't know the chef's name, but he's the chef from Ever. We've seen him a few
Yep.
different times. But he basically like is going to give her like the keys to the Porsche. Like she's going to be head chef, but she also gets to like design the vibe of the restaurant and pretty much run the show.
Yeah, and I mean, wild move by that guy. I
Yeah.
mean,
You know what's funny
she's
is I'm sorry. He
no, go
literally
ahead.
says, he says, like, I don't want to be like some kind of poaching move. It's like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, but also on top of that, just having him considering her for the head chef job after, I don't know if she has like as much experience, or maybe we're just misinterpreting her experience, but it just doesn't seem like she is necessarily ready for that head chef position quite yet. She has one restaurant that she tried, or one food thing, and it didn't work out at all, and then all of a
That's
sudden
right. I
she
forgot
went
about
through
that.
and studying, and then she just was like the sous chef for a little bit for Carmi, and that was really it. And they're like, go up to the head chef role. But I haven't seen enough of her personally to warrant that head chef role for her yet.
Yeah.
I feel like she needs a lot more of like in the shit experience, especially working for somebody like Carmi whose expectations are so high. You need to have somebody like that, whether it be really good or really shitty, regardless, in order for you to establish your own style of things.
Yeah.
You can't just go into it with your base interpretation of how you think you want to do things, because for all you know, it could be completely fucked, and you might be like a good person to work with, but a shitty chef, or a really good chef, but a shitty person to work with. You don't know your vibe yet. And I feel like
Right.
Sid doesn't have that yet. So
And to do just the head chef and then to also basically, like I said, give her the responsibility of
yeah.
designing the whole place, which is something that I don't think she has any experience at all. I kind of forgot what you mentioned about her having that one failed like food venture already. Completely forgot all about that. But she's got even less experience, I'd imagine, on that front. It'd be a massive undertaking for her, something that she, like you said, don't have the experience necessarily.
Yeah, I don't even know if she could necessarily handle that.
Yeah. I think the chef too. I think he was putting because he said that he snuck in to one of the opening nights at the Bear, and he said that the food was delicious, and he said something along the lines of like it was new, like it didn't taste like something Carmi made.
Yeah.
But it's like that's like an assumption. Like, do you act like it might not have tasted like something he made, but you don't know that it's not something that he made. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So if
so you
he's
want to
putting
base
that
your
much,
entire hiring
right, yeah, you're putting a lot of eggs in that basket.
off of an assumption.
Exactly.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
she totally could just take credit for that right then and there, but I mean, for all you know, she had fuck all to do with it. So it's just like,
Right.
but she was just like, "Yeah, that was my dish." I don't know. It's just that one
I, I
was
I think
I
she
think
actually defends like the cat. I think she said it was like our dish. I think is what she said, something
yeah,
along those lines.
yeah.
Team. The one part about this episode that I did like that was a really good scene was the Bear hires back two of the guys that we saw in the Napkins episode, Chucky and Chi Chi. They're being hired to go help Ibram out at the beef, which obviously we kind of mentioned. He needs the help. These two guys were funny.
Yes. Yes. I think that for me, other than Fact's little situation with bringing out the food, like this was
Yeah.
probably my favorite little like comedic moment
Yeah, this
because
was good.
they came in and you just saw that like they weren't fucking around, but they had this really funny rapport and they're just like, yeah, fuck this, we'll get this. They're like, brother, we'll get this thing moving. I loved how quick they were with it, and then it worked out.
It did. Yeah. No,
Like, it
absolutely.
was like they came in, they fixed it, and then they kept it moving. Like,
It
I
did.
loved that.
Ibram loved it too. He was like,
Yeah.
at one point, he was like, "Yeah, these guys are the best. Like, I fucking love working with these guys. They're crazy, but I
Mhm.
like them." The funny bit is the mayonnaise thing. He was like, "This guy asked for mayonnaise. I gave him the mayonnaise. I said, you ruined it yourself." He goes, "You fucked up. You gave him the mayonnaise." I did. I fucked up.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with Sugar's water breaking. So, which leads us into fucking episode 8, Ice Chips, which again, this episode I thought did virtually nothing for me, almost at all. It did piss me off right in the beginning. It was the only time we get to hear basically like the theme song for the show, which is New Noise. It's like
Mhm.
the song that they play whenever they start cooking. This was the only time we got this song the entire season, and it's for Sugar like being stuck in traffic. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. The disrespect.
Yeah. We didn't I'm not even gonna lie, I don't even think we watched, like, 20% of the episode because
Oh, no
it
kidding.
was it was constant conversation, and you kind of already know what the whole theme is pretty early on, and then it just never, ever cuts away from just this conversation of just like, "Yeah, we get it. The mom's crazy, you're having the kid, and you guys are gonna sit there back and forth talking about either past experiences, future experiences, or present experiences about how you're gonna navigate your relationship." But it's just you do not have enough story building for me to pay attention to that or like really be invested in that. Like you had the fishes episode and that set the precedent already for their parents. Like well, excuse me, their mom, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. It was just like, all right, we get it. She's very, very off. And now she has to be the one to help Sugar navigate having this child. But it was way too much, way too overexposure, my least favorite episode by far. Like, I just did
Long
not care
too.
about it. Yeah, long,
Long.
like, come on, we cannot just sit there and focus on this all day. It was like the Fly episode in Breaking Bad.
You never want to be compared to that.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the bottom. You never want to be compared to
but
that.
it truly was. Like, I genuinely feel like that. It was just not a good episode and put a sour in my taste in my mouth. Truly for, like, the rest of the, season, the next following episodes, which I mean, as we get into, they weren't horrible, but it's just,
Weren't impressive. Yeah, no,
no.
I definitely agree. If Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't like so good in this role, I would dislike this episode even more than I did. Like I was able to
Yeah,
like get through it, no problem. I've watched it twice now. I watched it again. I was able to get through it both times, like not necessarily enjoying it, not because I don't really care that much about the storyline, but like she is so freaking good in this role, man. Like you watch her and she is so fucking kooky. You can like she makes you uncomfortable.
yeah,
Like she's so over the top constantly, like at every moment, even if it's like being reassuring and comforting, she's over the top in that. Like no matter what the scenario is, she's too much all the time.
mhm.
But she did so good, and I did kind of want to see her character back. So I wish it was in a better episode, I guess. But that was the only thing. I mean, everyone's known that she's a talented actress too for her entire life now. So it wasn't like there was any news there.
Yeah.
But did you say this was your least favorite of the season or the series?
Both. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, least
wow.
favorite of the
Okay.
series. It just was not a good episode in any aspect. It was so drawn out too. I think that's what it was. Like they were really making you suffer through those uncomfortable conversations. And
Yep.
I can take some of that uncomfortableness. Like I could take it in little spurts in the fishes episode where you would just feel uneasy, but for a full fucking like what seemed like 8 hours, I felt like I was there the entire labor. It was just like I could not do it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The first time I watched it, I was kind of shocked that the whole episode, like you said, was basically virtually one conversation in the same hospital room. We never moved to another character. We never showed anything else. It was a slow watch. Definitely a slow watch. So we said I think it's like 45 minutes. I want to say, which for the show is on the longer side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get some episodes coming in at like 25 minutes. Like we kind of both just said, the rest of the season kind of slow. Episode 9, I thought was very, very slow. Like there wasn't much going on at all. The biggest thing, I guess, is that Uncle Jimmy says that if they don't get a good review, that he's gonna have to close down the restaurant. But then it seems like he leaves that conversation and goes right into his car with the computer. And it seems like no matter what the review says, they're gonna have to close down the restaurant. It seems like he's hoping for a bad one, so that way he has an excuse to pass on to Carmi
Yeah.
rather than just being like, "Hey, sorry, nephew, we gotta fucking close doors."
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, that was just like I don't know. It felt almost disappointing that it's just when is the win coming?
Mm.
You know, that's you need a little bit of hope to go off of, but so far with this season, it was just shit after shit after shit after shit. And then they were like, "But here's a baby," and then it's like, "All right, like I don't know." It doesn't save all of the constant negativity that we've had to go through.
No, for sure, for sure. This episode too is just like I feel like a lot of this, like there was, I think that's a big part of the episodes that I didn't like in this season is that it wasn't even just that it was like say like a slow episode. There was no moving forward. Like none of the characters advanced through anything. Like in this
Yeah,
episode, we see everybody still dealing with the same things that we dealt with like in episode 1. Like Carmi's still a mess. Sydney's still getting ran over by Carmi in the menu.
and
Like it's
doesn't know if she's gonna sign. It's like, yeah.
yeah, it's just the same shit. The best part of this episode, I thought, was the end of the episode. I hate Claire as she's my least favorite character on the show, but the facts go to talk to Claire on Kami's behalf. Very, very funny scene.
Yeah, that was good. But I mean, you just kind of saw that even with that, there was absolutely no progress to be had. Like
No,
it didn't that also didn't go anywhere. Like it was definitely funny and yeah, the best
yeah,
part of the episode, but just seeing everyone just sit there stagnant
yeah,
and you still have no clue what's going on. It was just like you guys are trying way too hard
yeah.
to add way too many elements to the show to the point where it's moving at negative 5 miles per hour. Like, let's get some shit cooking, like literally and figuratively. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
I think that was it for episode 9. That episode
Yeah.
kind of stunk. And then we get to the finale, which this finale, I kind of there were some parts of it that just felt like weird to me, I guess.
Yeah.
The episode focuses around they call it the funeral of Ever. It's the last service there.
Mhm.
One of the big things I thought was weird. I mean, it makes sense because these are the characters we're watching, and that's kind of the idea of the show. But like, I felt like the love that Richie was getting was just like so over the top. Like he was there for like 4 or 5 days, and like the whole staff there like treats him like he's a celebrity. When
Yeah,
like
that was
the no, sorry. Yeah, like when the is it Chef Terry, the girl that actually like owns the restaurant that's shutting it down. She goes to give like her little speech, and she like blows a kiss to Richie specifically. I'm like, you guys had
mhm.
one conversation together that lasted like 4 minutes. This room is filled with people that you've been working with for like years and years and years and years. It's just like
He's an
just a little
impact guy.
strange. That's true. It makes an impression. I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mean, shit, but, I felt the same way. That was a little weird that I was like, I'm pretty sure he was there for, like, a week,
Yeah.
and, I mean, I guess, man, maybe his character is just that outstanding, but I
Just
wouldn't
found it a little
usually be
weird.
for me. Yeah, it just felt like they were pushing it a little too much of, like, "See, everybody likes Richie because we know you guys do." So, it was like, yeah, like, mm-mm, mm-mm,
Yeah, no, I feel that.
but, that we'll see what happens with that and the relationship with him and the girl, I think Jess.
Seems like there's
I
something
like
going
that.
on there.
Yeah, 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 I like that. That's nice because it gives him a little, happiness. So,
Two feisty people, it seems like. She seems like she takes no shit either.
yeah.
She seems like she's got a mouth on her and she doesn't have a problem telling someone to shut the fuck up.
Yep. Yep, yep. It was
Gonna be a
hopefully
good
they
pair.
actually try to build something, whether it's just like a easy little side story. I think that's all it really needs. It's
Yeah.
just something nice and small, and it just kinda keeps Richie going through some hard shit, especially when he would have somebody who has that experience and of like the restaurant business.
Right.
So she kind of knows how it can be. So that could be something that's nice.
Definitely. Yeah,
But other
sure.
than that, you know, a lot of them being there was weird. To be honest with you, it was kind of weird that Sid was there. I mean, I
Yeah.
understood why. I understood why because you know, it's like Karma's I think +1 and he's trying to give her like the experience of like, see, these are all of these amazing chefs and all these amazing people who have worked for
You
this
want to
amazing
be
food.
one of these people, so you should kind of see what these other people are like, what their environment is.
Yeah, but it was so weird to just put her in there and then have her seen as like this equal, which kind of is like a diss to her, but at the same time, it's just you have all these chefs with these so much more experience than her, like
Yeah.
so much more. And then she's over there like, yeah, I know what that's like. I know this like, and it's just like, I don't know, the new blood jumping right into the pool like that. It's like, wow, okay, like it's gonna put a lot of pressure on her, and it's gonna make it's the writers saying that like there is a lot of stock on this character on Sid of like who she can be and her potential. So I guess it's really just going to be about how they deliver on it. You know, if this next season is going to be really her coming out and showing what she can do, because as of right now, all that we've seen is her consistently breaking down, consistently feeling like she can't take it, and
Yeah.
also underperforming. So don't put her on the pedestal yet, but maybe if they are, that is like foreshadowing.
It seemed to me like she had a little bit of, well, actually, still a foot in both doors as far as what she wants to do. Because just like when the other cooks, they're having conversations about experiences that they've had, like working for tough bosses, and she keeps having these flashes of like experiences with Carmi, but they're
Yeah.
all talking about them like positively. Like the reason why I became successful is because I worked here with this person and they pushed me this hard and da 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 da. And obviously, she's like, do I really want to deal with this asshole all the time? But now she's like, you know what? Maybe this is exactly what I need, is to keep working with him, and maybe I can be great like the other people in this room. But then at the same time, the same chef that she's been talking to, they have a conversation kind of in private. And to me, that conversation sounded like she was very heavily considering leaving to go do that other restaurant.
Yeah, and which I don't like you can see something like that like later down the line for some sort of TV show, but to just have everything happen, it's I think that's like the main impression I got on season 3 is everything is happening so fast but yet so slow at once. Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
you know, she's already ready to move on and go be a head chef somewhere, but like it
Yeah,
took all of these episodes to get and tell a story of what ideally could have been in like 3 of the 10 episodes or 4
yeah,
of the 10 episodes. So, it was confusing, but she does need somebody like that. She does need Carm, especially because previously she's sung his praises so much. So it's like, you figure it out. No offense, like you have to be the one to figure it out. Carm doesn't really have as much figuring it out to do. Yeah, he can tone it down a bit for sure,
definitely.
but you're the one who's learning. So, as much as things might be frustrating sometimes, he's the pro's pro that you hold to this high standard. So, she just needs to kind of humble herself in some rights, but also at the same time, which is just a paradox, she needs to take initiative in other rights.
Right.
You know, so she is in a just a lose-lose spot almost where she needs to relax, but at the same time taking initiative. It's just she's doing both of those things currently in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Like she's relaxed in the wrong places and she's trying to jump in the wrong places. She needs to just change directions almost.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
gotcha.
focus on the little things first and then be more relaxed with the big things because they'll come naturally as your little small skills that are important build and join together.
She's
I
still
see.
obviously young too. Like her character is
Yeah.
clearly like not very old.
Yeah.
So, like, kind of like a fucking get that new rookie quarterback. You're sitting behind a guy like Brady or Rogers or whoever it is, and they get to learn for a few years before they even get their feet, like, you know what I mean, thrown into the fire. Because even if they
Mhm.
are like considered partners, right, which they are, like if she's in a probably if she signs a contract and they're really partners, but you know that like the bulk of failure or success is still going to end up on Carmi.
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he's the one that'll be in the articles and having his photo taken, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you with Carmi too, you kind of see um you realize what he realizes. Like he has that realization in this episode too, as far as like what pressure is and how he progressed, because he holds all this bitterness towards his former boss who he sees at the dinner, and he gets a chance to confront him finally. But then
This was one of my
uh
big things for this episode.
yeah, like you see absolutely no regret, but also the same time not as aggressive as he usually is, Joe McHale's character, but he gives him like a lesson.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of like,
Him saying his last name wrong to start the conversation was such a fucking dickhead
I
move.
know it was, yeah. And then he kind of like it clicks for him, and he's like, okay, Rosado, and he's like, you were great when I left, and that's what Carm wanted.
That's true. No,
He
no, that
he
guy
wanted
was
to hear
making
that line,
sense.
yeah, and he wanted to hear that line exactly how it came out,
Yeah.
like he wanted to that's all he ever wanted from his boss was, "You are a great chef," and he didn't hear it the way he wanted to for sure,
Right.
but after he walked away, like, "Oh, Imma go take a piss now," um, after he walked away, Carm realized it, that he got what he wanted. He was just, like, so upset and so pissed off that, like, he was getting tears in his face, but at the same time, he was like, "But he thinks I'm great." Like, finally.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
No, I think there's definitely something to that. I think that holds water. I thought he like just cowered out. And like his character's like not a coward, it seems like in any way. Like he has no problem barking at whoever. Like I was surprised. I thought he kind of bitched out a little bit in that scene.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the previous experiences. Like he felt like he was ready to go, and then when he didn't get the response that he wanted, he didn't get to just scream it out like he would with
Right.
like Richie. All of a sudden he was like, "Wait, now what? What am I supposed to do?" And I think that's where he froze up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if he like necessarily like bitched out. It was more of just like a, "Oh fuck, this isn't what I wanted out of you." Like,
Yeah.
it was just not what he expected, and because of that, it took away his whole game plan right as it was going in, because he didn't really go in with a full game plan. He's just like, "I know I wanna tell this guy to fuck himself, and I just wanna have it out with him," and then he didn't get that reaction, and he was like, "Oh, shit."
No, definitely. I like so the way I looked at it was just like he's at the table with Sydney and then Will Poulter's character.
Yep.
Duca, I think it is. Luca? Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And he's up like you can see the steam coming out of his fucking ears, like he's on fire and he's saying like, dickhead, fuckface, all these things, like how he gave him basically like a mental illness basically because he was so hard on him all the time. He was like, I freaking migraines, ulcers, this, that, and the other thing. And then when he gets to his face and he has the chance to like ream, he kind of shies away. Like he
Yeah.
says fuck you and stuff, but it's like it's with half the passion that he just did it with at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the only that's why I said bitch. I mean, yeah. It was
Yeah, no,
still
I see what you're saying.
speaking of Luca, Will Poulter, I thought he was great in this episode, especially because it was so different. Like in when we first get introduced to him in season 2 with Marcus, he's very like kind of quiet, like reserved, not doesn't seem like like a social butterfly type. And then this episode was totally different. He was fanboying out for that one chef who finally had to just be like, dude, fuck you. I gotta
Yeah,
get away from
that
you.
was hilarious.
Yeah, he was like I said, this much more social. He was it seemed like he was flirting it up a little bit with Sydney, but I loved his character in season 2, and I like to see him more. And I think we're going to because he says that he's going to be in the States for a few months now.
Yep.
So I would imagine we'll continue to see him going forward in like season 4, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, me too. I always love seeing his character because I fell in love pretty quickly with this character in season 2 just because of the way that he handled things, and then to see him again, but like fully and throughout an episode, but interacting with other regular characters, and it was the same kind of deal, but more social setting. Yeah, like a more casual setting, like you had
Yeah.
said. Instead of focusing purely on cooking. That's the parts that I really like to see, and I'm excited to see more of him for sure.
Yeah, great. I just like Will Poulter too. He's just a good actor and he's charismatic. I like him on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a Marvel guy, but like he
Yeah,
was
Adam Warlock, he was great.
yeah, he was great. He was so
Mhm.
full. I loved him. I thought he was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And then the only other thing from this episode, at least for me, is the ending. It just comes out. We find out the review has officially come out, and it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but it seems like I interpreted it as the review was bad. It seemed like it was a bad review, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, or at least, like, it wasn't glowing, It
Yeah,
seemed like it could have been like, even if it was mediocre, they're gonna take it like a fucking shot to the head.
right.
So, I we'll find out, or hopefully they're just in shock, and we can try to get some fucking silver lining. Because, like, Jesus Christ, this was just a depressing ass season
It
of
was,
just
yeah.
stress and depression, and like nothing's going right, everything's falling apart, and you need something to go off of to look forward to next season. But right now we don't really have a ton. We only have these small little bits and pieces where we're the ones who have to find, oh, maybe this could happen and that could turn things around, but we don't really have any foreshadowing for a positive spin yet. And
Right.
that's what I really kind of need.
It also there does need to be some sort of, I guess, like in a way, a change, just because, like, all right, so now we're just going to go into next season with like a bad review, and then we have to continue to try to fix the restaurant, which is kind of what this whole thing's been now, basically from the beginning. Like, first we were just trying to fix the beef, then it was all right. Now we're going to open up our own place. Now it's trying to kind of iron out all the issues with the new place. Now we have a bad review, so what? We're just going to keep trying to improve again. You know what I'm saying? It kind of
Yeah.
seems like we need something different, sort of.
Mm.
Which is probably why they're introducing that Sydney storyline, I would imagine, because that could definitely, even if she doesn't take it, I think the idea of bringing it up to Carm could definitely cause some drama, because he's going to be like, yo, like, we're partners here. Like, I thought we were doing this together.
Yeah, or maybe cause a shift in character, or have him reevaluate a few things as well. Yeah, you
That
don't.
could be true. Yeah. Yeah. No, that could definitely be true. Because even you kind of see it a couple times in this season where he's self conscious afterwards of being like a dick. Like, I understand. Like, I realized I was being a dick. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah,
But that was 10. So yeah, kind of like what you said, that the end of the season was kind of lacking. I would say
yeah,
8, 9, even 7. I didn't really love. Like I said, I didn't love 7. 6 was napkins. Yeah, this whole season, like, I liked it. I didn't love it. That's for sure.
yeah. No,
Which
no.
I guess is what we can kind of do now is just general overarch. But I don't know
Yeah.
about you. Definitely my least favorite of the 3 seasons.
Yep. Most definitely. So it's just gonna be now. It's gonna be like, all right. It's up to them. It's up to the writers and actors, and to see what's gonna be next, and if they're gonna keep people intrigued, because a lot of people were very disappointed. So they could. I think they can still come back, and come back really strong. It's just about how they do it.
I'm pretty sure the next season is going to be pretty quick too, because I think they filmed 3 and 4 together.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I also think that I don't like seasons 1 and 2 didn't say to be continued at the end. It was just this one, which makes me even think it'll be quicker than no. I'm almost positive they filmed them together. So, and obviously, when you have a show like this, this is like, even now by like today's standards, this is a show that you could still turn out pretty quickly. I mean, it's not like
Yep.
they're traveling; they're in like 3 or 4 of the same shooting locations for pretty much everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
No,
really just
there's.
a matter of like availability.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it sucked to see, but there's still hope, like, for sure. I think they can
Oh
definitely
yeah,
turn some things around, especially once we get into that more pure restaurant based
yeah.
aspect of the show and plot line. I think that's where it's gonna really just start getting back to its roots.
Oh shit, what happened?
Oh, I don't know. Did I lose you?
Oh, you just no, I just like you kind of froze and cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, back to its roots, like seeing them get back to those restaurant and cooking roots is gonna
Yeah.
be very nice. And it's almost gonna be like not even a breath of fresh air, more like a sigh of relief, I guess.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, yeah, now there's something that we can see, and there's hope for the future of this restaurant. So
Oh, actually, you know what? Back to episode 10 for 1 second. I said the Richie getting too much love thing. I thought the way they ended the episode was a little like forced too. Like, they're having like that apartment party, and like Chef Terry is there with them. Like, to me, that just felt weird. Like, she knows like Carmi, and I guess she knows
yeah,
Richie for like a day. And that's where she ends up after like her closing down restaurant dinner party kind of thing. She ends up at like an apartment party at Sydney's new apartment. They're making like waffles in the stove or in the oven. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Just kind of, I don't know. It was just a weird scene to me.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I mean, I think they were trying to tie some things together, but yeah, it didn't really make sense. And for me, at that point, I think I was just like, all right, whatever, we're done here.
Yeah.
Like,
That's,
let's
yeah.
move on.
I was saying
Close it out.
Marcus
I
and
get it.
Tina show up. I'm like,
Yeah.
she knows like two of the people in this whole room.
Yeah, it really didn't make any sense. But at
No.
that point, I was like, all right, we're set. Like, let's move on.
Just
So
weird. Just weird.
it was. It
Sydney had
was.
that panic attack too at that like same moment pretty
Yeah,
much
and
too,
I'm
which that was new.
curious as to what's gonna happen with that.
Yeah. But I didn't even like kind of get it. She just saw like some newspaper clipping about the beef on her fridge, and then she started like hyperventilating and have a full blown panic attack.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't.
know.
Dude, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
gonna have
know.
to like read about a little bit more too, yeah, to kind of see what everyone else's thoughts were because that was also very confusing just because it seems so random.
It did seem very random. There's been
Yeah.
nothing like that from her at all. If Carmen had a panic attack, I wouldn't have blinked an eye.
Yeah, because you see it so much, you're like waiting for him to essentially burst into just an entire body full of anxiety and just basically have a heart attack.
Yeah, almost overdue.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's another chef movie. There's a chef movie where the guy dies of a heart attack right at the end of it. The
Yeah.
head
Well,
chef, he's like an alcoholic,
yes.
and
Mhm.
he literally dies. At the end of it, he has a heart attack, like in the kitchen at the end of a service. I can't think of which movie that is, but I love cooking movies. That's another one that one was okay. I can't remember the fucking name of it though.
Oh shit. Okay, well, my timeline just got tight, so I might have to say goodbye right here.
Oh, all right, man. No
But
worries.
thank you so much for having me on again, man. I love
No, thanks for
talking
coming in.
TV, and thank you so much for letting us just shoot the shit about the bear.
Yeah, no,
Hopefully,
it's
we'll
great.
find some other shows that you and I love to watch and get to talking. So I hope
Definitely.
to be on again.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
door's always
let me
open, buddy.
know.
We'll figure it out.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude.
No, I
I'll
appreciate it. Thank you a
see
lot.
you later. Yep. All right. Peace out.
Glad. All right. So I guess we'll just I mean, we're basically gonna wrap it. I guess if I had any last thoughts, I kind of already mostly got them out. Not as good as season 1 or 2. While episode 5 was hilarious, I would also say on the whole, it might not have been as funny as previous seasons. I mean, when the facts weren't on screen, I did not laugh much at all. The facts carried this entire season, comedic wise, on their back. The good thing, the best part about this season for me was the constant flow of food in every single episode. There's a ton of, whether it's cooking or preparing a dish, food was all over the place, which is something that I really, really want when I'm watching the show. I was glad that Claire's character was barely not in it. That's always a good thing. Don't really need her, but I'm sure she'll be back probably in season 4 on a bigger level, which kind of stinks, but what can you do? But yeah, we're in an interesting spot. There's a lot of crossroads between the review, the finances, post review, Sydney's career decisions. I mean, if the review is bad and Jimmy shuts down, maybe Sydney and Karma both looking for new opportunities. There's a lot of routes that the show can take right now. But hopefully it'll be back soon. I still have hopes for the show. I still love this show. I'm still looking forward to season 4. I'll be there day 1 when it comes out, binging a few episodes. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I think for my thoughts on this season. If you had any thoughts that go against mine, please let me know, because I would love to talk about this show, especially because I had a lot of problems with the second half. So by all means, if people liked it, I would love to hear some of their, I guess, defenses, basically what they did like about it. But thank you very much, The Facts, for joining the show again. Really appreciate that. It was great having them on. Great conversation. Thanks, as always, to Kirk Minahan and the Kirk Minahan Network, and John from Scranton as well, for letting the show be on the network and getting more eyeballs in the show. But John's been helping me out like crazy with getting episodes up and setting me up in the StreamYard and getting everything loaded for me and answering questions. So I really appreciate that as well. We will be talking to you guys again soon. Probably be back in a couple of days with the next episode of Game of Thrones, our review for the penultimate episode. So we'll be talking to you guys again shortly. But for now, that's going to be it. Happy watching.